law and military rule in South Korea. 1. The military coup of 1961, Park Chung-hee event. On May 16, 1961, General Park Chung-hee led a military coup, overthrowing the civilian government of President Yoon Bo-seon. This coup marked the beginning of decades of military rule in South Korea. Martial law. After the coup, Park declared martial law across the country, suspending the constitution, dissolving the National Assembly, and banning political parties. This was done under the pretext of restoring order and stability, which had been weakened by corruption and inefficiency in the government. Military rule. Park established the Supreme Council for National Reconstruction, SCNR, a military junta, to run the country. Although civilian institutions were nominally restored later, Park remained the de facto ruler, holding ultimate power through his military connections. Impact. The coup set the stage for Park to become president in 1963. His rule, which lasted until his assassination in 1979, was marked by rapid industrialization, but also by political repression, human rights abuses, and restrictions on political freedoms. 2. The Gwangju Uprising, 1980, event. In 1980, South Korea was under martial law imposed by General Chun Do-won, who had seized power through a military coup in December 1979, following the assassination of President Park Chung-hee. Political emergency. Chun declared martial law nationwide in May 1980, effectively suppressing political activities, and dissolved the National Assembly. The move aimed to consolidate his grip on power and prevent the democratic opposition from gaining momentum. Gwangju Uprising. The martial law sparked widespread protests, particularly in Gwangju, where citizens, including students and workers, rose up against the military dictatorship. The military responded with extreme violence, deploying troops to the city. Hundreds of protesters were killed, and many more were injured or arrested. The Gwangju Uprising became a pivotal moment in South Korea's struggle for democracy. Impact. The event led to massive protests across the country and ultimately contributed to the eventual democratization of South Korea in the late 1980s. The Gwangju Uprising is now seen as a symbol of resistance against military dictatorship. 3. The 1987 June Democracy Movement event. After years of military rule under Chun Do-won, who remained in power until 1987, South Korea faced growing public discontent, particularly after the suspicious death of a student activist during an interrogation in early 1987. Political emergency. The regime's repression and violent crackdown on dissent led to the June Democracy Movement, which saw millions of South Koreans take to the streets demanding democratic reforms and the end of martial law. End of martial law. Facing widespread unrest, the government was forced to announce a major concession. On June 29, 1987, Chun Do-won agreed to end martial law, and a new democratic constitution was put in place. This led to free and fair elections later that year, in which Roh Tae-woo, a former military general and Chun's associate, became president. However, it marked the end of full military rule. Impact. The 1987 movement is considered a turning point in South Korea's democratization. The lifting of martial law and the introduction of reforms led to the peaceful transition toward democracy, culminating in civilian rule by the late 1980s. Summary of key military rule events. 1961 coup and martial law. General Park Chung-hee's military coup led to nearly 2 decades of military rule, characterized by martial law, political repression, and economic development.